Araksha.
Hey, hi. How are you?
Good. You haven't done your work yet.
Actually, I was doing some assignment. I'll do it tonight.
Okay. You guys, let's give it a couple of minutes. Okay, so let's get started. So Tejas, you here?
Hey Sachin, yes, I'm here.
Hey, all right, cool.
Well.
Awesome. So, so guys, let me introduce Tejas. He is my friend. He's one of the top designers. In fact, he was a few years back, he was in top 10 and he was kind of sent to Australia to represent. He's one of the best designers, UX guys. So you're hearing from the best guys, okay? So Tejas, we have about, since this will benefit everyone, so we have 3 different batches here. So QA, we have QA folks, we have product management, project management folks, and we have front-end developers. And I'm sure you work with all 3 of them. So I thought everybody will benefit from this session, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So let's get started. Let me tell you what expected outcome that we're looking for. The expected outcome is when all of these how you interact in real life with people. So take a sample project and we'll play kind of role play because we have three different teams here. So if we have to build a small, that you explain, like maybe small Uber kind of clone or something small, we'll kind of walk through all the entire process, how you would do, how you go about it. I'll let you handle it. I'm not the expert here, but basically end of the day, everybody should know how, like the QA should know how they interact with the UX and how the whole process works, and they should be very comfortable with it. So like compressed course, compressed UX.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's get started.
Thanks, Sachin. Yeah. So, hello everyone. Again, just let me quickly introduce you myself. So, my name is Tejas. I have been into UX since past more than 10 years now. I did my bachelor's in electronics actually, but then I kind of always was fascinated about designing. So, I started working in designing, and then I did my master's from Pace University in New York. My major was information systems, but my course material was mostly into UX, information architecture, human computer interaction, and research methodologies and all that stuff. If you have ever heard about all those things, I work with different organizations ranging from like startups to mid-sized companies. And right now I'm working with ChenMed, which is a medical healthcare company in Miami, Florida. But right now I'm taking this call from New Jersey, where my family is right now. And I know Sachin from many years. And thank you, Sachin, again for having me here. I assume like you all guys are from different backgrounds, right? From product, QA, and I think few people are here from like UI, front end, correct? So being a UX designer, I think my job on a daily basis is like,
They just give me 1 second. Like somebody put on mute? Is like seeing
okay,
that background music. Some
sorry,
is it?
Sachin, it's my nephew. I'll just like ask him to.
Oh, okay, okay. I was like, who is on?
Sorry, just give me 1 second. Sorry about that.
Kilmo, I was about to blame you, but then I realized that maybe it's not you.
No, it's not me.
Who's playing the flute?
Yeah, hey guys, sorry, sorry about that. Yeah, I was just practicing. But yeah. All right. Do you want me to start my video camera as well?
Yeah, yeah. Just maybe you can just say hi.
Yeah, actually the thing is, here the light was so bright, so I had to turn off the lights, and I was just like put on something. I hope you guys can see me a little.
Yeah.
But yeah. So hi again, everyone.
Hello, hi.
So I understand you guys are from different backgrounds, like right from UI to product and like front end, back end, or maybe like I don't know, like QA, as you said, right, Sachin?
So we have QA. Predominantly, we have a lot of QA guys, front end guys, and then project manager, like product manager or project manager. So there's three major. But
Perfect. Yeah. So being a UX designer, I would say I work with all of you guys. So that's kind of a key thing for my job is I'm connected to most of the people in the company, right from not just the engineering team, but from like stakeholders or like some business people as well. Because we are kind of the people who are always connected with everybody almost in the organization because we deliver the product right from the beginning to the end. So we initially like so there are like a different processes overall, like a lot of different companies would have different processes. For example, if you will work in a startup company, right? Startup companies, there are not a lot of processes involved, so they mostly are like they are very super fast and like agile methodologies they follow. But if you'll go in like a bigger corporations where I'm working, for example, right now, things are a little slower in terms of working model because you need to get a lot of approvals and stuff. There is kind of a set process, so it will depend like how exactly your UX process would be. But in general, I can just like walk you through like what we guys do on everyday basis, or like in like a small scale project, or even like a project which is lasting for, let's say, 3 to 6 months. uh, so to begin with, let's say, I mean, we will take like an example of any cool app. So do you guys want to like pick any particular cool app or like a website or product that we can just like take as a reference, or we can just walk through that as an example. Any suggestions from anyone? I just want to be this little interactive. So
Airbnb.
okay, yeah, Airbnb. Airbnb is a really cool app, and as we all know, it's very, the product itself is very user facing and user oriented, and why it's getting so much of demand in the market right now is because it's flexible. They are actually targeting that hotel industry, which was kind of poor, so they understood the problem first. So when we talk about UX, right, it's all about solving what's exactly the problem. A lot of times what happens, especially in organizations, is like people come up with solutions, right? Oh, we need this, we need that, but don't really focus on like what the exact problem we are trying to solve. So any UX related stuff always starts with what is the problem? What is the problem that we are trying to solve? And usually there are a lot of different methodologies like double diamond process, where we start with the discovery phase, and then we go on defining the MVPs, which is like a minimal viable product, and then we do designing, and then we deliver the product. So this is like a in general double diamond process, which you can always go and learn more about on any website or anywhere. But I'll take you into details also. So any product, let's say for example Airbnb, right? Let's say few people in the company, they came up in with like a cool idea, or not even like a company. Let's say few friends, they came up with like a cool idea. Oh, you know what? There is something. I mean, they found this problem, not about the idea. They found this problem that, oh, people are not able to book hotel, or people are not able to find reservations, and it's like a complicated process. We all know like there are some challenges, it's very expensive, and in hotels also, like sometimes we have like difficulties in booking rooms, and you don't get that like a homely experience, right? So for example, whenever you guys have like booked Airbnbs, you go outside like to a new destination, but at the same time you feel like you are at someone's home. So it's like it's a very different feeling. So let's say few friends came up with like they understood this problem. Oh, there is a problem, people are not able to find these expensive hotels easily, they are not able to book these places, and they are not able to travel to where they want. And of course, like then there is all kinds of pricing and stuff. So when people discover these problems, so these bunch of friends, let's say, they start discussing this problem. How can we tackle this problem? What are the exact factors that we can put together on a whiteboard? So we usually start with like whiteboarding. Oh, these are like the main problems that we have. For example, there's a booking issue, there are not enough hotels available, and at the same time people have like places that they are ready to rent out, or like they are ready to willingly share these places. So we list out all these problems, and then there are a lot of different methodologies where we call like mapping. For example, we'll divide these problems into 4 different quadrants, which is like, oh, these are the problems that we need to target must. So for example, must haves, should haves, could haves, and won't haves. We will divide these problems and prioritize this problem, because any particular business study or business product would have, let's say, like a one particular problem. But then you can come up with a lot of list of different problems, and in order for us to prioritize them, like okay, like no product can be built right from beginning with like full-fledged product. So we have to kind of start slow, because we are talking about like, let's say, building a product right from scratch. So we have to target, these are the basic features that of course we want to provide to our users. So let's say we list out those problems, like these are the priority problems that we need to focus on. Then we prioritize them. Once we prioritize them, we start doing some user research. In UX designing or any product build, research is the main factors that drive the whole design. The more research you will do, the better product you will have. Now in research also, there are a lot of different methodologies. You must have heard, or you must have come across like different surveys, like people send different kinds of surveys, asking some questions. So if you want to target a lot of audience in like some limited amount of time, you can send out these surveys to like let's say thousands of users at one shot. And then in writing all those surveys also, there are a lot of different methodologies. For example, if you will research a little about what's HCI, human computer interaction, and research methodologies, there you will find a lot of different these research methods. And in defining those problems also or questions, usually you have to let's say write all those questions in a way that you are not putting your words into your users' minds. We're trying to extract information from them. A lot of times you must have seen these questions as behavioral questions rather than just, oh, do you like this app? Yes and no. They probably won't understand ask these kind of questions, but rather they would, what they would ask is like more behavioral questions. How was your experience, using this particular feature on this, or what was the problem that you discovered when you were traveling to your last vacation? So for example, if you ask these behavioral questions, then people will always come up with different ideas, different scenarios, and you will be able to filter out those and understand the real problem that's out there in the world. So once you discover different research methodologies, and this is like one of the research methodologies only, like just sending out surveys. There is ethnographic study. For example, you go to like office and you observe people in their natural settings, you take their notes. There are some other research methodologies, like you do like one-on-one interviews, asking and checking their behavior, checking their reactions, checking their mood, and the list is like very vast. So the first foundation of any understand like building product is basically uh, finding that research and finding what users are looking for, how they're if there is like a service or product available right now, how they're using it in today's world. Once you figure that out, right, then you understand, and then you kind of try to match with your notes, like the problems that you have listed. If you figure out, oh, the problems that you have listed, are they kind of matching? Once you match those problems, and if you have that research available, you can even modify your problem set. A lot of times, and this is like, I'm just talking about when we are trying to build product from the scratch. A lot of times what happens in the companies is people, especially the higher management or like stakeholders, they would always come up with like some cool ideas, and they think that, oh, this is going to work that way. This is what we want on our product. But in reality, users possibly don't need that thing. A lot of times stakeholders and businesses just focus and empathize towards business, but users, like UX designers, are more empathized towards users, and that's like our main job. Specifically, like let's say a lot of you guys in this on this call are like from product background. Product people would always have requirements coming from the business or stakeholders, right? So you would come up with these requirements or these problems that we are trying to solve, and then you would contact UX designer. This is what this business wants. This is what the stakeholder wants to build, or this is where we envision our product. Once you have all these details, what we do as like being a UX designer, we make sure that whatever requirements you guys have, we will go back to our drawing board. We will connect with our actual users through these research methodologies and try to figure out if the requirements that are coming from the stakeholders, are these the requirements that our users need, or are these the features that our users are demanding. If we figure out that yes, this is like somehow matching, then we go in that direction. If not, then we have to kind of change our course a little bit, because we all are, I believe, like naturally designers. For example, we must have done some drawings, paintings, and we always have like some natural instinct to any kind of design, whether it's just like your sofa, fan, table, or chair, or anything, right? So whenever it comes to design, everyone would have their own opinions and how they would envision the product. But the whole point of UX design is like, are we really trying to solve the problems? You must have seen a really, really cool apps or websites that are very pretty looking. So the UI is really great, but you are not able to find the information that you're trying to find on that product. And that's where the product fails. So UX design is not just about the looks, but it's all about if the users are able to have that great experience? Are they able to find what they're looking for on that particular product or service that they're trying to use? So until now, we are at like this research part. We, let's say, talked about collecting requirements from the product team, which are coming from stakeholders, and then UX design team is going to the user, to their users through research methodologies and try to collect that information and gather basically all the requirements. Now, in the research methodologies, we also do a lot of comparative analysis, competitive analysis. For example, let's say right now Airbnb, I'm not sure like if there are any other businesses that are competing with Airbnb, but for example, let's say take an example of Uber, right? And I don't know if you guys have heard about Lyft. So for example, if we are building an app for Uber and then there is a competitor called Lyft, we would also do some competitive analysis, like what kind of features they are offering, how can we compete with that particular product. We will do also comparative analysis, which is comparing these two products, apples to apples, and why, let's say, if they are being successful more than our product, then why are they successful, on all those things. But if you don't have a lot of competition in the market, sometimes usually it's not the case. You will always find like some or the other services who are competing to each other. It's just like it depends on who is a little bit ahead and who is doing it a better way. uh, so once you have all that comparative analysis done, then we do like a brainstorming session. We do brainstorming session with the product team. And now, sorry, does anyone have a question or something?
No, I just wanted to add that VRBO is one of the more competitor for Airbnb.
I'm sorry, what's that?
There's a website called VRBO.
Okay.
It's pronounced as Varbo.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
They're the main competitor.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure like, and there are a lot of competitors out there as well, or maybe like there are some companies and like products who are trying to, get there, but because Airbnb is like kind of well established because they reached there first. And this is like the good thing about new innovative product. It's like if you reach there first, then it's like you become like a kind of a legacy in that product. For example, we have seen like how iPhone or Apple started and then all smartphones followed. Now, for example, Tesla, right? They got into electric market. We all know how crazy gas prices are right now, and now all companies, their future models are basically all electric cars. So
Pages, oh, sorry, Sushma, I think has raised the question. So let share some questions. Sushma, go ahead.
Oh,
You raised your hand, right?
yeah.
Or were you playing around with Zoom?
Yeah, I'm connecting with Zoom. Like, yeah, I got a hairline fracture on my leg and have to connect through the Zoom right now. Okay. Oh yeah. First of all, thanks Sachin for letting me in to ask some questions. And hi Tejas, I'm Sushma. I just like worked as a UI designer earlier, just to give you a brief intro about me. So my question is that, like, when I was coming across few interview questions, the main question they ask is which product do you like most and what kind of enhancement you want to do in that product. For example, daily, sometimes I meet with the problem, daily, whatever the products we use, like Netflix, WhatsApp, and everything, right? So we use almost everything is there. Like, sometimes we get the idea, we forget to write like what we want to enhance and all such things. But how to approach those problems, approach those questions, I just want to ask that.
Okay, so if I understand your question, I think you said like you have a little UI background.
Yes. So
Are
that you spoke
you
about the business things, right? One higher people used to give me the requirements, and we used to come up with the designs. We never like interacted with UX designers in our past company.
Okay.
If you're aware of Just Dial, so like that was a product based company. We used to work for different verticals like restaurants, flights, and all such for booking platforms,
Okay.
but we never came across like to work on a research field. That's why like when I mean after coming here to US, like there are few questions certainly I can't answer to them. That's why like which is a better way to approach the answers being a UX designer or a researcher I could have.
Sure. So you said like you are a UI designer. So let me just confirm, because a lot of times if you guys have seen like UI UX designers or like UI designers and UX designers. So in UX design also, UX design is a very big umbrella. Honestly, there are a lot of different people who work in the UX designer. For example, for few companies you will find just UX researchers who would only focus on the research part. They would not design like a single screen or anything like that. Just they would just like discuss things. They would just research. They are just focusing on users mental model. And by the way, UX design is the main foundation of whole UX design is psychology. So we really need to understand user psychology and behavior in order for us to like build amazing design products. So as far as we get into their heads, we understand their mental models, their behaviors, we understand what kind of things or products or services they are looking for in our like product that we're trying to launch. So from your question, right, you
Yeah.
said you were a UI designer. So I
Yes.
understand, is it like you're more into graphic, or you used to build only screens, like any particular
Exactly. Yeah, I used to come up with only screens and logos and hotkeys, something like if I have to deal with Illustrator or something.
okay.
So only I dealt with those things, but definitely not with the part of how the flows works and all such things. So higher authorities, they used to come up with a one particular flow. This has to be done. We used to take a reference of some other competitor app and we used to design the things. That's how like it works internally in the company.
Got it.
So
No, I agree. I think design is also, I would like to add, like design is such a thing. For example, once you design something, right? I mean, a lot of people would just try to follow. And that's where, like you get a lot of different competition or like a variety in the market. Maybe some people would offer like some additional features, and some products would, offer something basic or like something very advanced. So that would again depend on their services, what they're trying to offer. So from my understanding, I think your job is mainly to take, like requirements from the stakeholders, whether it could be like any business people or business owner or even like product people. And then because you mentioned you used to work in Illustrator, so I assume Illustrator is mainly used by, I would say, graphic designers, not necessarily UX designers. Uh, uh, we have used Illustrator on some components, but it's not extensively used in UX design. Honestly, the tools that we use in UX design are basically Sketch or Figma or Adobe XD. You guys must have heard about these tools,
Mhm.
and there are a lot of other ton of tools also competing with each other. For example, we create mockups in InVision and Sketch, and Figma is like offering everything in one tool. There is Balsamic for low level wireframing and stuff. So when you say you have like collected that requirements, right? Uh, I know like it's kind of sometimes very challenging to raise a question to your higher authorities, and we have
Yes.
been trained in, unfortunately, in like a technical world, that whatever we are just told, we never kind of question, like why are we doing this, what is the motive behind that, like why do we need this service, uh do we really have to follow what other people are doing it, then what are we making different. We are just like changing the UI a little bit here, and then we will not be able to create amazing product. Maybe we'll be able to just match or compete with our partners, but if you really want to deliver or come up with like new exciting ideas, you really need to innovate and ask these questions. So let's say few questions are coming up from your stakeholders, or requirements, and they ask you to design something specific, right, in UI. I would, of course, like very respectfully ask these questions, like what are the exact requirements, where these are coming from, have we done any kind of user research, have we really talked to our users, do we really understand our users, like their psychologies. Because a lot of times you guys also, and including me also, I have seen a lot of different apps or website. They are really cool, like very famous apps like Google, YouTube also, but some things we are not able to find, even on all these like established product. So why are this happening is because it's not, they haven't like possibly solved the exact problem. So let's say you have a user base of 10,000, right? 10,000 people, and I'm just giving an example. And then out of out of those 10,000, let's say you do some research through surveys or anything, and then you figure out, oh, you know what, 8,000 people are really demanding these features, and then 2,000 are not really needing these features. But then the business is actually just coming up with this particular thing, which possibly is not going to be useful for our users. So once you have those requirements, right, of course like we build products so fast in agile world or like small scale companies that sometimes we don't get enough time. But if we do some comparative analysis and find the motive behind like why did they took that approach, sometimes it's really cool to have some brainstorming sessions, and not with just the stakeholders but with engineering team or like anyone in the company also, to just get some cool ideas or like different perspective on the UI part also. So the UI part actually comes in like the very latest stage in UX design. So all these research and UX design happens, and then once you have built, then we just kind of do the UI. So you consider.
Sorry to interrupt, Tejas. Like, yeah, because like I worked as a UI designer as well, and have dealt with this UX part as well, like right now in academics. So, what I am really not
Uh,
able to find out what is the difference between UX and UI, because like everything is coming up with Figma or else Adobe XD. It's almost like a UI design. There is nothing to come up with come up with a Photoshop or a Illustrator apart from the icons or something.
Right.
So, and
Sushma, let's actually, I want to give you a break a little bit. So your interview question we can ask later. Okay. So let's get, because we have everyone. So I want to benefit this session for everyone. So Tejas, just for fun, we'll do a small like role playing. Okay. And so so in our team right now, we have, so you and Sushma are obviously UX guys.
Okay.
We have a QA team. Okay. We have product team. I am a UI developer and there is UI developers. Okay. So all are pretty much everything we need to develop a product is in here in this session. Okay. So I'm going to share the screen, and because I want to keep it very real life, where you're not really going to build Uber in overnight or Airbnb overnight. What you'll probably build is very small feature. And so I want to focus on that. Okay.
Okay.
So let's say the product manager now comes up with, say, okay, they did whatever, they come to you, say, we did the research. Here we want to mention here that where this Airbnb, whether it is free for Ukrainian refugees. Okay, this is because of this Ukrainian crisis, they want to clearly state where, like just looking at it, it should say whether this Airbnb is free for Ukrainian refugees, yes or no. I mean, so instead of going inside, because right. So this is the requirement that is coming, and which is very realistic, which is definitely is possible. Okay. So it is coming from, let's say, product team. We came up with it. Our stakeholders asked us, okay, we want this. So we are coming to you. Hey, we want to develop this. So now, where is this? Let's start this, and then maybe you can develop a small. If you have, I don't know if you have access to your Figma in here, you can develop a cut, copy, paste, and do something just to see. But let's do this now. What should we do?
Okay, so as you said, right? I mean, this is the requirement. For example, like before I just call this as a requirement, I would just let's say what problem we are trying to solve. So the problem here is like, okay, there is a war going on right now in the Europe, and these Ukrainian refugees are traveling to, like, say, Canada, Northeast countries, and they need like a place that they can find on Airbnb, which is labeled only for them, for example, right? Just for free stays, or people are just like willing to give their space to someone. So this is the problem that we are trying to solve, right? And this is what is coming from the product. So what we would do is, I know it's a little different scenario right now, because maybe we won't have like enough time to do the research because it's a crisis time, and then we need to really deliver very fast on this product and problem. So still, if there is a way for us to find and connect to these refugees, maybe not directly to them, but through some organizations, and understand like what places they're looking for. For example, let's say when we say, oh, they just need to see the place, but are they really traveling to these places? First of all, that question we need to ask. Are they really traveling to Canada, or like where, like in New Jersey, New York, or like Miami, Florida? All these questions we need to ask. Once we figure out, okay, this is like where they are mostly trying to travel, what we can do is we can come up with new like labels and ideas. So this is because this is not mostly like related to the UX. It's, we can tackle this problem just with the UI as well. For example, and from the backend perspective also. For example, okay, let's say someone just type in something in the research field of Airbnb related to Ukraine, right? Let's say they type in Ukraine, we list, of all these places like that they can take the refuge. Or even a lot of time we add, because this is an emergency situation, this is a very unique situation, we can add like labels on top here.
I'll let you share if you want to share. If you want to.
Yeah, hold on.
Do you have Figma in, or you're working for other computer?
Right now, actually, I'm accessing through my
Okay.
computer, so I don't have it. I am actually using Sketch at my current organization, so
Okay.
I don't have installed anyways. But I think the new job, I'm going to be starting a new job soon where I'll be using Figma. So maybe next time I'll just give you like a walkthrough. So for example, let's say this is Airbnb. For example, let's say someone comes in Airbnb, right? Immediately now, this is like for the regular people. What we can possibly do is like, okay, there is like a screener here. Let's say Ukraine crisis or something like, if you are a refuge, click here. And then that will be completely like a different experience for Ukrainian people. Now this is like just the homepage of Airbnb. You can either sign up or log in, and I'm sure like there are usually like two profiles, one as a user who is looking for places, and one who is trying to host places, right? So we have to create two different experiences for two different users now. One who is trying to host and who is trying to, let's say, give some benefits or discounts, or like even offer free spaces to these refugees. We will have like a different, like a UI or like some kind of banner or pop-up that will take them to that experience. And then the other person who is actually a refugee, let's say these people of course might not have internet connections or something, they're stuck, but they're going through these refuge camps. How can we coordinate these camps directly, right? So we need to understand how these refugees are coming in, like they're coming on their own, or they're coming through, let's say, some organizations or some communities. If we figure out that they are coming through some organizations, communities, then we can directly give like and send these links to them, and add some part of UI that they can log in and they can book these places for these refugees, so they don't have to manage on their own. And then they can maybe send some text messages or like some confirmation, so that they can go into like that host, they can just share the code. So there are a lot of different ways we can do this process.
So Tejas, let's say you designed a new, let's assume that because like I know the actual research might be different, but I'm trying to, so that everybody understands. So now you design a new UX, for example. Is it called UX, right? New design. You made a new design. Assume, let's just say, so that we have you, because UI guys are here, they need some work. Okay. So you did a new, based on the research, you did all that stories. But by the way, what is it? What is that UI UX design workshop that you guys do like all day? There is like, I have seen to like all day workshop. What do you guys, the same thing you told me you do guys do?
So UX workshop could be, I mean, it could be different, at different organizations. There could be brainstorming, there could be wireframing, whiteboarding. So
Okay.
we would just discuss ideas. So as we were discussing, right?
Can you show some like wireframe on like Google images or
Uh,
something? Images, like Google images.
okay, hold on. Actually, I'll just like show you guys my portfolio itself. I don't know. So so this is not up to date, honestly. I wish I could share, because I work with a lot of organization where I'm not allowed to share my work because it's under NDA, which is non-disclosure agreement. So it's like some of my work, which is, let's say, from my college or like some other products. So I'll just walk you through that. So let's say this is the app that we are trying to design at our university, Campa, right? This is like a mobile design app, for like safety of the students. We have seen in the past. Right now, it's not that crazy, but I think few years back we have seen how many campus violations were there. So students were not, of course, like feeling very safe. And this was like one of the pilot project that we did at our university. So we use like different tools and my
Can you tell me like what like different? Just can you just show at least in Google what a design tool, Balsamic, OmniGraffle. If you can just screenshot at least, so we'll get an idea
So,
what
yeah, sure. So
what they.
let's say, yeah. So the balsamic design tool we use is basically, if I have, I don't know, balsamic. So balsamic is very, very basic. It can give you like these sketches or wireframes. So whenever we discuss these products, right, initially, we don't really jump into the design directly. If you jump into the design, for example, I'll just give you like an analogy. Let's say you want to build a house, right? You won't start painting your walls immediately, right? You would hire a architect. You would sit with that architect. You will plan things. You will build blueprints, right? So
Right.
this balsamic 2 actually gives you like a blueprint. For example, here, as you can see, is just giving a wireframe. This is called a wireframe, which is like a blueprint of a website where we decide, okay, on the left side, we are all putting text. These are just like image blocks. We don't care about what text would be, what color and everything at this point. We would just be discussing on a high level, like what this would be. So this is like balsamic. And if I have to show you, let's say, an example of Figma. Sorry, this is something different. Sorry about that. So for example, here, right? So this is like a Figma tool. As you can see, it's Figma basically.
After wireframes are finalized, now you are starting. So that is called wireframing, that balsamic tool. Now
Right.
you're trying to like, now that everything is finalized, everybody agrees. And I think I did some UX course, and I think the reason they only do wireframing is that in the design session, people will go into like color. I want this color, I want that color. And that's why they want to do just wireframe so that nobody starts questions. So, okay. So wireframe is done. Now you're building the actual design that to be given to the UI developers.
Right. So So basically, once the wireframe is done, then we are the ones who design the product itself. So I mean, it depends on organization. If you have like a UI designer specifically dedicated to design like screens, you can give it to them. For example, Sushma, right? She said she was just getting requirements, and then maybe there was like UX. Let's assume there was a UX stuff already done, and they didn't have like a UX designer who can also design UI screens. So maybe this part was given to Sushma. Like after all the research and things, they created wireframes, and let's say they gave all these wireframes to her just to add like color and typography and just to try different combinations of all that. Does that answer your question?
So UX is done now. So this is the next thing. This is called UI design, and that is will be given to the UI developers to develop, right? This is the next phase, right?
No. So once you have all the research done, right? So we create like mockups. So for example, I can show you, right? So this is like a mockup of. So this is like all the research and the solution that we came up. So these screens, as you see, right? These are just the mockups that are designed by UX designers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So these are mockups, and you can even make interactive mockup. For example, this is, I'll just like share you. I don't know if it's working anymore. I haven't tested these in a few times. For example, this is like a mockup, right? So this is not a real developed product. This is a mockup that is designed by a UX designer in a design tool. And now design tools could be InVision. Now, for example, this one I have designed in Adobe XD. Here you can, let's say this is like a Campa app where you just like, let's say click, it kind of starts, within 9 or 10 seconds, you can just like either cancel, or if you just want to kind of notify to someone that you are stuck somewhere, or you're getting chased by someone, in the campus, or you had like a fight with someone on campus, then basically it's gonna notify to like all your emergency contacts and stuff. So all these interactions we have designed. So just to envision all the product, you can just directly call 911. Don't worry, it's not calling, it's just a fake thing. So these are mock-ups created by like our UX design team. And then it's gonna record. So it's just basically kind of a prototype or mock-up that we kind of let our product or like stakeholders envision, like this is how it's gonna look, or this is how it's gonna be behaving. Like these are how all going to be like the interactions and stuff. And and then we do all these research, and again you can see like we do interviews. This is like, again, we do affinity mapping. You were asking, right? We do UX workshop. So we do like a lot of stickies on the wall and stuff, where we try to prioritize things. Like this is the feature, this is the behavioral, understand the user.
This is really cool. This is why I want to be UX guy. Just for this one sticky, so you can get to put stickies here all over the place. This is really cool.
Yeah.
So what is like is there a color coding to it, or is just no color?
No, it's just random. You can color code, of course. So usually like it depends if you are doing it on a small level. I mean, sometimes we work on like so complex products. Let's say we want to completely redesign a dashboard. That product is extensive, right? So we have to understand it high level. So let's say we have our dedicated UX room. We go to that room. We keep brainstorming for weeks. It's not going to be happening in 1 week, because you really need to understand. One day you prioritize thing, the other day, or someone comes up. Like let's say last Monday I had this idea when I was taking a shower, and then I come up with this team because I have this sticky on my mind, and then we prioritize things. Sticky is basically just a rough thing, like a block of things where we discuss on points. Because what happens if we just keep discussing and directly think, we don't have that broad picture. If you have everything in front of you, a lot of times you must have seen in movies also, these cops or like these detectives have these things linked.
Yeah.
So if you have that bigger picture, you understand the entire product easily, right?
Got it. Makes sense.
What's happening in here and all that thing. So yeah. And then we, as
Good
I said,
example, they just like, yeah, I really like this example. Like, the detectives and all such stuff. Yeah, that's how creative mind works.
yep, exactly. Yeah. So because if you have like a bigger picture, a lot of times what happens is like we understand thing, and then we have that in mind, but then we if we don't have that in front of our eyes, we try to focus on the other one, and then we kind of cannot compare things. So if you have everything in front of you, it's much easier for you to compare things, right? So that's why these sessions are really important. And that, again, this is like a competitive analysis. Then we create like a persona. I don't know if you guys have heard about a persona. For example, persona is like a representation of your user. For example, in this case, right, Jane is someone who is like a 23-year-old, and personas are usually like hypothetical. So they just
fictional characters.
Yeah, kind of fictional characters. Yes. So they basically represent your users. So all the research, the research that we do, based on that, we will create persona. For example, Airbnb, right? It's always good to walk everyone through examples. Let's say we are creating that Airbnb feature for refugee, like Ukrainian refugee. So we will come up with like let's say there is a guy like a Vlad. Okay. I don't even know if it's a Russian name or Ukrainian, but I'm referencing it. So let's say there is a guy called Vlad, and then he's 56-year-old. He has his wife and 3 kids. They're trying to travel to New York because they don't have any place. They have contacted this community. So it's always about story. Now that I've told you this person, right, you have that kind of character in your mind. So it's easier for you to understand his problems and things. And that's why persona building is really important, to talk to your stakeholders or talk to your seniors in terms of what the actual user problem is. And now it's just hypothetical. Even though it's hypothetical, that Vlad is representing the entire user base. So it's just easier to communicate to your stakeholders. So if you take the example of Vlad, right, and if you talk to your product people or stakeholders, they will always reference, oh, you know what, that person Vlad has like this issues, or this is like his daily routine, this is like his past experience, these are his needs. So again, persona building is like a very different level of skills also. And once we have that persona, we come up with like user workflow diagrams as well. Like, okay, for example, they will start here. What is the first step
Can
that
you zoom out? Sorry, can you zoom out there?
like zoom in?
Zoom in. Yeah.
This is, I'm not sure. This is like an image attached.
You can just do command plus.
Right, hold on. I'm actually using Windows after a very long time. I'm not
control plus.
I usually use MacBooks, but
Yeah,
It's Control Plus.
I think it's control plus.
Okay, control plus.
Yeah, it expanded.
Can you guys see?
Yeah. One more, I think one more zoom, that'll do it.
All right. Yep.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So for example, this is just like a user flow kind of diagram. Again, this is just like a one example. You guys can see like millions of other designs. So don't worry about the design. What we are trying to do is like, let's say this is Vlad who is trying to go through that experience, entire experience, start to end, how he would go through that product, how he would go through that service. And there is going to be like a happy path versus not so happy path. Usually happy path is like what are you like what we want our users to do. For example, let's say Vlad wants to go to Airbnb and he wants to book something. He should be able to figure out that reference. He should be able to clearly understand where he can book these for free, how he can contact emergency things, and then what if like he goes into some different page, how he can come back and things like that. So there are always, we usually focus on happy path, but it's always good to focus on non-happy path as well. But the main idea is just to mainly focus on happy path, for example. And then there are like conditions. This is just like a regular flow diagram we all must have done in schools and colleges, and there are a lot of different varieties to these flow diagrams. Honestly, like people do affinity mapping, like literal patient mental experience as well, like behavioral experience. How did they feel about creating like while they were navigating through this product. So it's all about behavioral. For example, sometimes you are on certain particular page but you're not able to find any information, and then you really get frustrated and you give up, right, on that service or app, and then you're like, okay, I don't want to use this anymore. So we really need to understand their behavior and where they give up, because we need to retain that user, and that's how we can sustain our product with our competitors. So this is like one of the example of hold on, let me just unzoom a little. And then just like a legend I added for reference. And then these are like a wireframe. So whenever when we have these all research and stuff done, I mean, at least my personal experience is like I start with basic sketches. So because like paper is cheap, pen is cheap, you can literally, it's just like put some ideas. Sometimes we do this on whiteboards as well. And as you asked, Sachin, in whiteboard like UX workshop, what we do, sometimes we create all these screens and just like stick it on the wall, just to have that like bigger picture how all screens would look like. We even draw on whiteboards just like a rough screen, and it doesn't have to be perfect. As you can see, like this is like so ugly, and they want to, if you're interviewing or something, they want to see your process. If you're especially interviewing for UX roles, they want to see your UX process rather than your final product. I can create design for amazing products like this. I don't have issues, but they really need to understand like how you approach to the problem, how you delivered, because like one design can be done in like thousands or millions different ways, right? I mean, if you want to build, let's say, house, 10 people will have different ideas about building their house, but what's the problem exactly you're trying to solve? For example, you cannot build a house where you just enter in the house and then you have a toilet right in front of you. It needs to be planned pretty well. And then once you
One
have
quick question, Tejas, like which is the best practice to come up with a, low fidelity wireframes? Is that a paper sketching or else a balsamic sketching? Like, because both are like low fidelity wireframing, right?
right.
So according to new trend, which is the best? Like we have to depict that in a papers or in tools?
So it depends what like how fast you think the process is, because see, ultimately what you want is the final product, the final design, right? So it would depend like how much time you also want to invest. Sometimes I worked in with startups where, or like products which are like they need like super fast, so we cannot invest too much time in balsamic. Balsamic is really good if you just want to not let them focus on the UI or the colors and everything, but like the flow and functionality of the product. Then balsamic is really good, but it's mostly on the digital. You can even like just create these screens and even upload on any design tool just to have interactions, because you can add hotspots to these screens. They don't have to be. And as you can see, like these are just a paper based screens. I literally took like a Xerox copy of or like a printout of these wireframe. You know, you can literally Google it anywhere. You can find blank, you know, pages for screens, and you can just like start drawing with pen or any sketch pens also if you want, if you prefer color. I don't prefer color at the very beginning. And as you can see, these are then transformed into little high fidelity wireframes. uh, Between the sketch versus this little high fidelity wireframe would be that balsamic stage. But if it's really required, like if you really need to be on that process, then you can create something in balsamic, which is kind of a digital version of paper based sketches. But you can just create these ones also in any design tools. Here also, as you guys can see, like we haven't focused too much on the color part yet. We are just focusing on the functionality, not even the images and things, because that those small things would take your time, right? And at this point your focus is not on design. Your focus is to build the product and the service that can be used by everyone. So once you have this mid fidelity or high fidelity wireframes, we even would do testings on these things also. So we do like a user testing on like a rough or high level product itself. Let's say we have internal users or like some users that are willing to just work on the product, I mean, give the usability testing. So even we can do some usability testing, because the thing is we need to make sure whatever we effort we put into final design, we just need to make sure that we are building and designing the right product. Because imagine, let's say if you're building like a car, and then uh, uh, instead of like putting all those machines and something, and then you don't test it out, and then you build everything, and then you take it to the test drive or ride, right? And then it kind of fails. Then it's going to be like you have to open it up again, and then you have to I don't know, maybe add some things or remove some things. So it's always good to do some testing at this level itself. Here we can do usability testings on design tools. A lot of these modern design tools allow you to like create mockups, and you can create a script for usability testing and share with your users. Just ask them behavioral questions. For example, okay, now I would ask, let's say, Alina, who is like a user who wants to use this Campa app. You are stuck in a situation or like an elevator in your university campus. Given this situation, how would you use this particular service or product? And I would keep this question open-ended. So there are in asking questions, usually there are like things asking open-ended questions versus closed-ended questions. Closed-ended questions basically are just asking questions that would give you answers like yes and no things. For example, oh, would you use this service? She would just say yes. But then if I will give her like a behavioral question, I would really get to understand her problem and behavior and experience, like how she would go through your service. So those are called open-ended questions, which are like mostly behavioral questions. And those give you like more insight about user. And when we ask these questions, we usually try to keep mum. If you keep, let's say, even if you have a conversation and keep silent for like few minutes after receiving, or like few seconds after receiving the response, you will find user will always try to speak something, or like try to cover up something, or try to give more additional information. So until you get and extract all that information, you should just keep silent and just let them speak, and understand their behavior. Just play dumb. That's what we are trained actually to do.
Detective work.
Yeah, like a detective. Yeah, don't give them any reactions or anything. Just try to understand. Just understand their behavior. I mean, you guys can try these skills. Like ask anyone, go and go with them, ask anyone a question, and just like after their response, just be silent for a few seconds. They will come up with like something, because there is always like a feeling of like filling that space, like a blank space. So people and users will naturally come up with something. Trust me, I've done this like so many times. And then once you have all these testings done, we do like a usability heuristics evaluation also. I think these are like really good. You guys can explore. It's from Nielsen and Normal group, which is a very renowned UX group. Donald Norman is the one who actually coined this term called UX design in 1993, who was a design, a psychological kind of worker in Apple. So this UX design term was coined in like 1933 by Don Norman, and he's like that group, Nielsen and Norman, and they have like a lot of these authentic tips and things. And this is like the usability heuristic 10 interface design, like visibility of system status. Like you should always have the system status visibility, match between system standards and real world user control and freedom, consistency and standard throughout the product. So these are like 10 basic heuristic, at least I try to evaluate on my design. There are a lot others too, but these are the basic 10 you should always try to follow. And once you get used to this, you will always try to focus on these heuristic principles on any product or service. And once you have that, right, and then we have done all these things, then we just try to we go there and we jump on that, and then we create like these products. And then if we want to add like new projects or products, we just go there. Again, here I have used like some of these cool apps as well, and these are just like the interactive product. For example, I'll just like give you a walkthrough to this, just like some of so and again, like we can add on animations and interactions. All those parts would just come later, but initially you would just want to work and focus on the usability aspects of it, the product, how you want to build the product. For example, I'm just building this kind of app for like, let's say, high school students who wants to understand everything about our solar system, how they would use this particular product on their mobile phones or something like that. As you can see, like I'm clicking, right? So this is like a hotspot that you can see, right? Highlighting in blue. So all these hotspot you can add in your design tools and just like create something really cool. And again, the designing is something that you can go up to VFX level, but usually it's not expected at a UX design level. So the more you know about anything about design, you can just like keep on design amazing products and keep on upgrading your skills. For example, this is like the concept for the Tripper app that we were working on, where you can just like go through these cool suggestions in the app, where if you're traveling somewhere, you can just like book the itinerary, save changes, and once it's booked, you can see that on your recommended list.
So Tejas, for benefit of everyone now, so we would like, so that's great that we built. Now, what else is the process? How do you interact with, other, like, so you got there now, designers, product managers, QA. So how do you interact with them? So once you give the designs to them.
Sure. So I would say product people would work with UX designers throughout the entire process, right from the beginning to the end of the to the delivery of the product, because they are involved even in like collecting requirements from stakeholders and people. And then I'll be more empathized towards users, just to make sure that whatever we are building is like user focused and all. But at the same time, product people are more focused and empathized towards business, because they want to deliver a product which is like where company or organization has invested some time, money, and everything. So we will just match. And then once we have all this like things done, we will go to the engineering team. Usually we go to the architects first to understand if there are going to be challenges, and stuff like that, the backend people. So we do like kind of planning and grooming sessions where we just on a high level we show them these mock-ups and get their feedback once, because let's say you build a house, right? You show the blueprint or something to like the workers, and they don't agree that we cannot build, we don't have tools and technologies to build something like this. Like you come up with some crazy work design for your home, but they don't have that tool or they have like limitations. So we need to understand, right, their limitations also architect, because ultimately they are the ones who are going to be building this product. Once we build that thing, once we get that estimate, then architects usually kind of on a high level add those story points on. So product people will come up with like different stories. I don't know if you are familiar with writing stories, so they come up with like small stories. Okay, we just need to add like this button here, and how this is going to be how the behavior of that button is. So how many points you estimate for this story? Usually there are like weekly sprints or bi-weekly sprints, and then the architects and the backend people will estimate that. Once we estimate that, we will go to like the developers, the UI developers and the regular developers, and they would actually start working on the product for like, let's say, 2 weeks of sprint. Once that is being done, like built, then we go to the QA people. They will actually test out with different scenarios, and I'm sure like there are a lot of different things that they also do, just to make sure the performance and everything is right, whatever the intended behavior of the product was also right. So they will test all the scenarios from there. And also, and once it's kind of everything looks good, if there is some issue that QA people come up with, and that's why they say like QAs and developers are not friends anyway.
That is true.
Because QA people will always find some bugs or something, and then they have to go back to the developers. And that's why if you involve all these people right from the beginning of this UX design process, or like product process, they understand like which direction the product is going on, and they can raise these questions right from the beginning, rather than, oh, we come up with this like QA like complete mock-up, and then we just tell them, oh, go this and build this. Then it's like, okay, they don't understand the process. So it's always good to add, let's say you did some work, you don't have to involve them every time. Let's say every week you do like half an hour session, just to let them know like which direction we are heading in, and if they identify some issues, they can let us know, oh, this is not going to be possible, we don't have that technology, or we have these limitations to build something like this, and we can understand their constraints also that way. So that helps all the time. I mean, my process is like, I always try to involve almost most of my engineering team as well, right from the beginning of the process. And once everything is done, QA people would just test all that out. Everything, if everything is pretty good, which is not the case all the time, trust me, because there are always going to be some issues, some or the other. But at the MVP level, like minimal viable product, if everything looks good, then we will just launch that product. And once that product is also launched, I'm sure like they do some beta testing or some other testing also for the initial part. Usually QAs also have like different environments, like integration environment and then the live environment and stuff. So in integration environment itself, we can even test out that product with our real users. If it's, let's say it's a big product that we make sure doesn't fail, then we can just beta launch it and then test it out and just fix the bugs and everything, and then relaunch it with the live audience.
Okay, perfect. I think so anybody has a question, this is a good time to ask any questions.
I see some question. I'm just trying to go through the chats. Yeah, interactive. One quick question. I would like to know, how did you design the interactive mockup? Which tools I use? So as I said, right, interactive mockups. It depends, like which tools, whichever tool you like. You can. I've seen people using Photoshop. You can even design in Photoshop, and then you can use InVision for just prototyping. So usually Sketch used to be like a legacy design tool, which you can use for designing, and then you can transform those designs into InVision using so InVision is basically just like a mock-up tool, where you can upload your screens and then just like add hotspots to it. But now design tools are getting so competitive and advanced, just like Adobe XD, and Figma is just like taking over everything. but it's still very new, so that's why people are not adapting to it as soon as possible for now.
Teachers, which one did you use to create the interactive
Yeah, so
prototype?
these ones I mainly use Adobe XD, but you can even use Figma. Figma and Adobe XD are all.
Figma, yeah, the basic version, you don't get much interactions, right, to do work on it. Like for the basic version, if you enroll it for a free, if you
Yeah,
are a
I mean,
premium member, then only like you can come up with much prototyping.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
Content.
I'm not sure about the licensing part. Usually, like wherever I work, we have the company licensing
Yeah.
stuff, so we always get like a high-end, access to any product. But yeah, I think if you guys are like some students or something, you will always get some discounts through universities. I remember I had done that when I was a student also. So even you can get some student discounts, and it's kind of worth it if you really need to try any design creative tool. Adobe XD is really good. It's very simple. Even Figma is pretty good. And then there are a lot of different complex interactions that you can keep adding. Usually Sketch is pretty good for designing too, but because it doesn't have that high end prototyping mode yet, so that's why you have to rely on different tool just for prototyping. So you can design anything in Sketch, but in Adobe XD and Figma, you can do everything. Like you can design, you can do prototyping and everything. So they are like, everything in one tool kind of thing.
Yeah, just for an idea, how is mockups?
Also,
Mockups interactive designs like mockups, there is some tool called as mockups, right? So
mockups.
yeah, mockups, MOQUPS.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there are so many different design tools that I think, are you talking about this one?
Yes, this one exactly.
Yeah, I mean, this is like there is like a Flinto, and there are, I don't know, like there are so many design tools,
Yeah.
but usually like I have used interact like in the leading design tools like Sketch, Figma, and Adobe XD.
Okay, currently the running in the trend is like Adobe XD and Figma, what you're saying.
Right. Adobe XD in design community, Figma is really, really getting very popular, and most companies are getting, trying to do that, because one cool thing about Figma is you don't need a tool. It's a browser based thing. So the all other tools like Sketch, Adobe XD, you might need like a tool, right? You need to install
Yes.
that .exe or like that file in your machine. But in Figma, it's like an online browser, like Facebook, right? You can go to Facebook from anywhere in the world. Just like that, in Figma, you can just like log into figma.com. You have account, you can access, as far as you have internet, you can access that tool from anywhere. So that's really cool thing about that product. And honestly, like all design tools are pretty much the same. It's just like little different. So if you understand like one design tool, you will definitely understand like how other design tools are working. Just like few things are changing here and there, few interactions and UI things are little different. Otherwise everything is pretty same.
They
Yeah.
just like for the when we give it to UI developers, you all like these are the tools that will also give you HTML, CSS, right? Like you can call the dev. I've worked with these tools that you can actually copy HTML, CSS also. Like when you design, like when you give the link to the developers.
That's
um
in Azure, Sachin.
Was that?
Azure.
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 Yeah, usually I think these a lot of these new design tools are kind of pretty smart. I'm just trying
Okay.
to access
And
like
how about responsive design? Like you design for desktop, mobile, and all that, right?
uh yeah, I mean, usually like right now the trends are basically like that. Just give me 1 second, sorry. The trends are like that. We everything is getting mobile based, right? So I mean, my approach for designs, if we have that product, let's say on web as well as mobile, so we always try to focus on approach which is mobile first. Because if you guys agree with me, everything we are doing on everyday basis is on our phone. I don't remember like going to my laptop other than my work thing. Everything I'm mostly doing is on my phone these days. So everything you are designing is going to be mobile based approach first. And then if you have to scale, of course, because we have web presence, we'll focus on that as well. So you can do responsive design. You can get like in design tool, you have different sizes of artboards like iPhone 7, iPhone 8, desktop HD, and then things like that. I'm just going to show you this is like everything is Adobe. I'm just trying to find where I used something in Sketch. Let me see. I have, oh, so for example, yeah, so this is like something I designed, like an app which was designed in Sketch, but the mockup was created in, let's say, uh, InVision. And as you can see, actually this one is, I'm not sure. Search. I think this one is not showing me the access, but when we actually build the product, we have like different modes, like a play mode, comment mode, and like a developer mode. So if I go in developer mode, I can actually pick on these assets, meaning like if I've used some CSS colors elements, developers can literally pick from these UI elements there, and they just have to copy, click on copy, and they can find those like hex codes and everything for CSS elements. Some of the design tools might offer some basic HTML elements, but it's not quite there yet. But CSS elements, I think most of the design tools they're definitely offering. So UI designers don't need to like ask, developers or like what color they use or things like that. Just go to the mockup, go in the developer mode, click on that component or element, and just like you will see all the CSS hex codes and everything. Then just like,
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Figma usually does provide the CSS codes, so
right,
including the RGBA
right,
and pretty
exactly.
much all the,
Yes.
like size
Yes.
and pretty much everything.
Yep, exactly. I agree. I mean, most of the design tools these days, it's just this one also shows, but because I have uploaded this, it's not kind of the accessed version. So I don't see those options here. Otherwise, I was just planning to show you guys that, but I don't have it here. So maybe next time.
Awesome, awesome, guys. So I think we'll have to close it. It's kind of getting late for everyone. Like let's take the last question for testing people. How do QA tester do testing in manual testing? Okay, how do QA tester do testing in manual testing? Okay. I don't know if, yeah. So
Uh,
Radhika has asked that, so I'm not sure what.
how do QA testers do testing in manual testing?
So you do have tools like like Selenium and all, in which you can do it in automation testing. So what about in manual testing? How would you test a particular website? Like, I just wanted to ask that.
Right. I mean, I'm definitely not like a QA expert, but I understand like some of the terminologies, as you said, like manual versus automation testing and things. I'm not sure exactly what tools they use, but I've heard about these like Selenium and all those tools. So your question is like how do you QA testers do testing in manual testing? So I'm sure like they have some bunch of criterias. For example, they have like a list of questions that they need to test. For example, let's say I'm building this app, right? And then let's say we are building just a login process. So what are the failure points that possibly users would have, like if they add like a wrong email and things. So they must be having some script for manual testing. I'm not quite sure, but for automation it's different. But that's more for a technical person. I think I'm not that expert. Yeah.
I have answer for your question. How is that? Like, I really don't know. Usually, the testers follows the waterfall method. If you are aware of, before using the agile methodology, so that's how like they come up with one step by step process, like where you have to conduct your testings there manually.
Okay. Tejas, one quick question. Do you have like the Q for QA? Like, do you had any issue where you developed a component, UI guy kind of designed it and then QA's guy, you have like this QA saying it's not right way, UI is saying it's the right way, and then you are saying it different way. So all three of you are like kind of in.
Usually, I mean, I have seen that, but I think it's a good standard practice to have a design library. So what we have is like a design library. So whenever we design something, for all components, we have design library. For example, this login button, this is going to be our primary button. So anywhere we use this primary button is going to be the same because we want to be consistent. And this, for example, create your registry, right? This is going to be our secondary button. So we define these components in our design library, and we try to share these UI assets with UI developers as well as QA people. If they have all these assets handy, then they can basically access this design library and compare things. So it's like a standard pattern for everyone. I've seen companies where they don't maintain all these things, and then that becomes like a challenge. If someone is trying to use something else. But if we have all these assets handy, then it's just become easier for users also, and UI designers also, and QA people are mostly going to just test the functionality. I believe they won't care too much about the UI, but when it's come to UI, like how it looks and behaves or feels, the UI and product like UX designers can decide, like UI developers and UX designers can decide, like, okay, for example, we don't have these icons specifically, let's say this Facebook like round icon, we don't have this in our library, or it's not in our system. It's going to cost us maybe to download that icon or something, or maybe we have to build it, and it's time consuming, and it's but we have something else. Let's say we have like a black and white icon, or let's say we have a squared icon that you can use. So as far as UX designers and UI designer can agree and the functionality remains same, we can use anything that is consistent in our product.
It's just last question. Again, guys, this is the last question. We're going to call it no matter what. Okay, this is the last question. So how do you maintain the, a company has this branding, right? They have these colors, they maintain. So how do you maintain consistency? They might have so many brands across so many countries. But so you will see any country brand for same thing, there's very consistent, but there might be other UX developers. How do you maintain this? Again, is it the color, the color and everything?
Yeah, I'll just give you example of like a design system, if I can. I'll just insert. Google is fun, but oops, sorry. Just trying to
But that
find.
is Google Material UX.
Yeah.
I
So
guess.
yeah, for example, I'll just give you material. Yeah, that's a good call out. So for example, Google has its own design language, right? Material UX design.
Right.
Sorry, material.
It's
design.
actually MUI, MUI design, MUI design. Okay, material design. Yeah.
Yeah. So material design, for example, this is like coming from Google, right? So they have already defined. So any Android product or anything that if you're trying to use, they have all the guidelines, like how you want to use your layout, your pixel density, and everything. So this is like a standard. If you're using text legibility, you can just test out and page every detail you can find. This is like for Google. If you go to Apple's design guidelines, they're a little different. For example, I can just quickly show you here. So every companies have their like, especially the bigger ones, they will have their own, like standards for designing components and stuff. Let's see if I can. So even like these companies, for example, if you are using material design or like Google, they have like these assets or libraries developed. And so let me show you iOS. Library. Yeah, iOS design kit, for example. So this is like the iOS design kit for Sketch, right? So if you want to build an app or something, let's see if I can play this video. Just go back and see. So they already might have already used some basic components. For example, as I said, primary buttons, icons and stuff. You will find everything in that kit. And don't worry about this pricing. So you will find some of the other free kit tools as well. This is the same one, but yeah. So for example, let's say someone is trying to use this Bitcoin app. So they will have these sketch files ready. It's just like you have to download them. You will find all these assets. You can modify them according to you, and then you can just play around with it. But of course, like a lot of times you can use these standard files just for components like buttons, or like just these back button, which is standard in Apple application, or like these keyboard, right? QWERTY keyboard. So these assets are okay, but if you're building like a product, I would recommend like having your own design and theme for that entire product, and not just like, following any particular theme. So whatever works for your design and your problem or like your brand, you can just do it. And usually bigger companies have their own branding guideline, completely different. And then we designers always maintain these kind of libraries where you find these assets, and we keep adding as we grow our product. We keep adding, let's say, radio buttons or like primary buttons, secondary buttons. Even we have text copies also, like this is the header type is always going to be this color, and it's always going to be this size, and this weight. So all these text typographies also we kind of define and maintain at one place. So yeah.
I want to close, but I have one last question, which is very good. So I really thought I wanted to close, but the question is really good. So
Sure.
how is everything versioned like Git in UX? So
How is everything what? Sorry.
how is everything versioned like your Git for developers? We version the different version control.
Yeah, that's a really good question, honestly. So when I was working initially, there was not a version controller, but right now, at least, I don't know about Adobe XD and Figma yet, because Figma I haven't really used a lot. But I think in my next company we might be switching over to Figma. Even in my current company, we are into the transition, but because we have existing files and data so much, that the transition is not going to be easy. So the abstract fine. So in Sketch, at least we are using this tool called, what is this? Yeah, so this is like a tool you can download, and you can basically use this design tool. Hold on, I think it's just the blog, but I think I'm wrong. Abstract.
So it's app. It's like a Git for UX, or is it
It's like a Git for UX. I don't know why I'm not seeing. Yeah, version control for Sketch, for example, you see, is the same thing. So this is like a Git for UX. I can create like a file. I can work on it, and right now I'm using that in my current company, where we design something, and then if I create basically like a branch, right? So we have a master file. I create let's say I have a master file where I have some assets. I create a branch, I start working on something, and we will discuss with the team, which we show, we have a design review. If everything agrees, then I'll just like commit those changes on that file, and then I can just like merge that branch to my master file. But if, let's say, someone is not happy with my design, they can just like create another branch, or maybe a sub branch to my design, and just like create another version to this design, and just commit, and then even merge to my brand. And then I can merge to the master brand. So it's a little complex tool, honestly. Usually we won't need that much of version control, but it's always good to have if you just need to roll back to your design. So right now, at least abstract, I know. I'm not sure about the other ones yet. Yeah.
Okay, perfect, guys. Okay, we'll close it. Thank you, Tejas. Thank you really for taking the time. I hope you inspired all of us.
Yeah, and
I hope our guys don't run into UX now. They're like, we want to become UX developers now, UX designers.
By the way, UX developer or designer is a different thing. It's a very interesting thing. Like you, usually right nowadays, a lot of people are just calling like UX developers, but honestly, what they're looking for, like someone who is like a developer but understanding of UX. Usually, UX is only going to be like UX designers. There is nothing going to be called like a UX developer, but those I have seen that like some small companies are just posting their positions like UX engineer or like UX developer. So all they are asking is like, you're like a unicorn, you know everything about your coding, but at the same time you some understand all these UX concepts and everything. But UX design is a completely like a very long, broad branch, and it's a very interesting and cool thing if you guys are interested. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Tejas. Really, thanks for your time. Okay. So,
All right.
okay, you guys want to say thank you to Tejas?
you.
Thank you, Tejas.
Thank you. And
Thank you,
I'm
Tejas.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks,
Thank
Tejas.
you, Tejas.
Yeah, and now you all know
Yes,
my
thank
name
you.
and everything. You guys can connect me on LinkedIn or anywhere. If you guys need any help or anything, please feel
I'm
free.
just putting his name in the chat. Tejas Chauhan, if you do want to connect on LinkedIn, you can.
Tejas, can you please share
Thank you,
your
Tejas.
portfolio link, if
Yes,
possible?
Okay, Tejas,
Portfolio link.
Tejas, you want to run away? Otherwise, Sushma is going to start her interview practice right here. Okay.
No, sure.
I can see.
What was that again?
I said you might want to run away before Sushma start her interview practice with you.
Some information. What was that, Sushma? I don't mind. Like,
Oh, just I wanted your portfolio link. That's
portfolio is like, it's a very simple. It's just my first and last name.com. You can just like write down the spelling. I'll just copy it and share with you all. My portfolio, by the way, is not up to date, so it's not super advanced. I have a lot of different other works that I honestly couldn't share because of all the NDAs that I have signed. Otherwise, that work is pretty cool. But this is like something basic. And if you really want to book my company projects, it is password protected. So the password is going to be 2022, which is this year. So yeah, if you just want to explore something.
Okay. I added Tejas' link in LinkedIn. Okay, guys, I'm closing. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sachin. Bye.
Thank you, Tejas.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night.
Thank you, Tejas.